Are we ready?
I'm
Call to order the meeting of the International Falls Economic Development Authority for Monday, October 16th at 17:54. And call the roll call, all members present. Item 3 on there is approval of the minutes.
having been present at the meeting, I would move approval of the minutes.
Second.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Not call for the sign, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Anybody in the audience? Skip that. We'll go to item number 5, accounts payable and the financial reports. Have them before you.
Mr. President, there's no accounts payable, just the financial reports for the month ending on September 30th, 2017.
Action then, right?
Take action to receive them if you wish
Is
to.
there a motion to take them as presented?
I would move that, you're moving? I would move that we accept the financial reports for the EDA Fund 208 and Multimodal District Fund 404.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, any discussion? I'll call for the sign, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carried. And item number 6 under reports is approve a resolution to set the EDA meetings for quarterly. You want to talk to that, City Administrator?
Thank you, Mr. President. Very briefly, the EDA had taken action at the last meeting by a motion to go ahead and move the meetings from a monthly basis to a quarterly basis. I indicated that I thought the statute required monthly meetings, and I know at some point in the distant past it did. I reviewed the statute twice. I couldn't find it anywhere, so it did indicate that in our bylaws that we have to do that by resolution. So I prepared this resolution for the EDA board to act on, and the resolution would specify that the EDA would meet on the second Monday of the month in January, April, July, and October, and then that would accept any recognized holidays. And quite frankly, I think the third Monday of the month of January is always Martin Luther King, I believe, so that would probably be held on Tuesdays, but the council normally meets on the first and third language, so it would probably be on whatever date the council meets in January, but it's you'd only meet quarterly instead of monthly.
I would move adoption of the resolution setting regular meetings quarterly.
Motion and second, any discussion?
Does this meet the requirement of the bylaws, or does the bylaws read it's monthly?
Well, it doesn't. It just says it shall. Well, it does say it would be, according to a meeting schedule that you adopt or revise from time to time by resolution. So, and in the past we've apparently done that on a monthly basis, and this is just setting it on a quarterly basis. And I actually included a copy of the that page of the bylaws on the back side of the resolution, so you can kind of see what's embedded there.
Should we have the happy problem of having a lot of activity, we could always meet more often. Not an issue.
Chair can call us anytime.
And we would do that.
All right.
Any one of you are notified of a project or something that we need to discuss, please bring it forward to staff and we'll call a meeting, not a problem. Any other discussion on that? Signified by a sign.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Director's report.
Mr. President, EDA members, I really don't have a formal report. You know, I would just point out, and when I come across information that I think is somewhat useful, or I think has some background information that might be helpful in the context of economic development, I try to keep a copy of that, and I've included 4 of those or 5 of those, and I've put bullet points in there. But again, you know, and we've talked about this at an EDA level before, as well as at a city council level, is that there seems to be more jobs and there's people to fill them around the state. And so I've made a copy of a press release that the deed had sent out, and you can see that statewide in the second quarter of this year, there's 122,900 job vacancies, and that's up 26% from a year ago.
Wow. Wow.
And I think it's going to get worse with the aging baby boomers, and they're retiring, and just less warm bodies to fill those jobs.
Well, I'm certainly aware of the pilot shortage in the commercial end. I still get a lot of military stuff, and the Air Force is screaming right now. They're short 1,900 pilots and expect to be short 3,300 pilots.
The Air Force?
The Air Force. Don't have a problem recruiting, but they're having a problem getting people that want to go and be pilots right now.
Everybody wants to. I mean, you wanted to fly and there wasn't enough slots open for them.
You don't hear it in the news, but the first chief of staff reported to Congress that's where he's at right now. He can't get people to be pilots.
Is it a health issue, or is it just...
I think it might be just tied to what kids want to do nowadays. I guess.
Requirements? Well, it's costly to study to be a pilot.
Well,
Not if the military's paying for it.
Not
If you pass the test, you go to school, they're paying your way. I mean, it's not costly at all to become a pilot, but I know the standards are really high. So far as physical, mental, the whole shebang. But
And we want them to be.
yeah, right.
One of the interesting things, and Ryan, you would probably know that with Bob, but Shane from SEH, who's their pilot that comes up here, he's also an engineer. He used to be a C-17 pilot in the Air Force, and I asked him, I said, well, why did you get out? He said, the tempo. I think he flew cargo stuff, and they're flying back and forth to Afghanistan, Iraq, all over the place. The tempo of operations is so much, it wreaks havoc with your family life, so people are getting out when they can, and then they can get jobs with the airline like that and make more money and have a better schedule. So
I suspect that the Air Force problem is that because they're expecting to lose 1,900 in the next 3 years. But if you look at the commercial, they're so short. Well, these guys can step right over and a week's training and they're in a 747 seat. You never, if they've been flying C-17s. Fighter pilot's going to take a little more time to learn to fly. But I know on air guard wise, half the air guard pilots fly for commercial anyway already. But not your active duty, of course. But
difference between the salary for pilots that would be in the Air Force or the Navy versus...
I would think that for a lot of them, they'd probably be taking a pay cut going over right now.
And I think that's your problem, Ray, is that
The
before
airlines have dropped.
you got out of the service,
Their salaries so low that
pilot was a high-paying job. Now you get out of the service, and you get a cut in pay, so it's not sought after. The money isn't there in the private sector.
Well, demand and supply should up that salary then.
I mean, this is comical because SkyWest has a pilot that comes in and I swear he looks like he's 12 years old. He can't even see over the dash. He's only about 4'8".
We'll be in Saturday.
Every time because he's funnier than heck. He's a card.
Is he the one that wears sunglasses at night and asks for duct tape when he walks into
Well, that sounds like something he'd do. I mean, he's just...
My cousin once flew here. She said, I panicked because here's this kid that comes in. It's night. He's wearing sunglasses. He's a pilot. And he asked for duct tape.
Just in case.
That's not funny. But
Of course, we're all laughing. The way it's going 10 years, there's not going to be a pilot in the seat anyway. It'll all be remote control. Anyway, we've digressed. Anything else that would come before this?
Well, I was just saying, some of these other articles, the population grows means the city is thriving, or does it? One of the things, I think the takeaway from that is that you really want to build wealth and income, not necessarily population. There's some places that have a growing population, but they're not necessarily growing in wealth in terms of income that their population is generating, and it's creating problems in some of these communities. So it kind of made an important distinction that I think is just mindful for us when we're looking at economic development projects to bring in here, is to
We also want to keep our old people from moving out.
Hopefully there's some things going. I see Sammy's Pizza, we got the parking lot done. I haven't seen the activity if they're working inside. And I know Mr. Keep is basically got his property out east cleared off. And he moved his equipment out of there now, so hopefully he'll be starting that soon. Anything else?
I would agree with nothing to do with this, but out of the new airport, and I want to commend you, Mayor. It really is wonderful, and I think it benefits this community many years. I know lots of people were alarmed at the cost when it was being proposed. Do we really need to spend that much money? But now that's all done, I think the answer is yes. We needed to spend that much money, and I think it's going to be great. And the jetway, which was one of the things a lot of people were saying, do we really need this jetway? Well, it's really nice, and it's going to really be nice in January and February.
You can't believe how people talk about it. My good friend Bill Blaze, I was sitting with him out at the clinic, and he's in a walker, and he says, "When's that jetway going to be up?" He says, "Every time I fly out," he says, "I can't climb up that steps," And he's just one of many that, as working there, there's a number of times that people can't, and we got to physically, it takes 3 people to get one person in the plane, and it probably takes 10 minutes to do it for that one individual that can't climb the stairs.
And somewhat demeaning,
Right, a
to
lot
have
of
to
them.
help someone when you should be able to roll them up in a
I'll tell
proper wheelchair.
99% of them will do everything they can to walk down this because
Sure.
they don't want to have to go through that process. And, so them saving them that issue is tremendous because they can take their walker and walk right up there and walk right off. So.
As a follow-up, you said that Sun Country was having a problem coming here because of not having a jetway.
But
Well, I understand that, but that was one of the issues that
Right.
they had with
Right.
not having a jetway, that they wouldn't fly here until we got a jetway because they had to use the stairs. Don't do it anywhere else, and they locked up and they lost business for a day.
right on.
Hey, what?
They lost business for a day because they couldn't get the
They landed
stairs
here
back
and
up.
got everybody off, but then they couldn't get the stairs back up. It took them 4 hours to finally get the stairway back up so they could take off out of here.
Hasn't been used for years.
That's right. Well,
That's real.
Yeah, and they don't have a qualified guy that uses it all the time would have known that there was just a micro switch that he had to tap on.
Well, speaking personally, I have a 96-year-old mother that flies. She went twice in August, so I'll be glad to be able to
Really turned out nice. I mean, that's
have her be able to walk down that.
first class.
Well, and I think it's going to have some real value for businesses in the area to be able to do some advertising on large screens, putting their business or their service out there. Hopefully that will help the airport with operation costs, and we can keep that down. We're going to have a tough winter because we need to continue the operation of the old building through the winter in order to have the TSA and the National Weather Service office have offices. Come spring, when we tear down that building, they will spend the next 18 months in trailers. Well, so that, I think it's cheaper to run the building than it is to rent trailers and to put them up outside. But it's certainly, I think, going to serve the community well and the region.
I know there's been a lot of discussion about the flight schedule again, and, please just let people know that we as an airport commission we've exhausted everything we can do to try and get the morning and night flight back, but, we're at the mercy of the airline.
But yet employments are
And
up.
employments are,
So-
they're way up.
So then why doesn't this schedule, it seems the schedule's working then, right?
It's working.
It's working very well for the airline, but for a lot of
Some business
frequent
folks
flyers in
find it
town that
inconvenient.
use the airline, can't make the same connections that they could. They may have to spend the night in the cities where they wouldn't have had to before. And, all I can say is please get a hold of Kyra and get the name of the SkyWest individual, and just, if you'll bombard him with, maybe they'll do something. But I know how hard Bob and Kyra and others on the commission that had conversations with the SkyWest individuals just end, so.
I think one of the craziest things I've heard is it was a Yogi Berrism. Someone told me that no one's using the flight out of the falls because it's too full. They couldn't get a
A
flight.
lot of people that didn't get out of here because it is full.
And that's the problem. No one's using the airport anymore because it's too full. Well, because they can't get a flight on it and they have to drive down to Hibbing and catch a flight somewhere else. They're saying that the airport or the airline, it's working really well. Maybe we are getting to that second flight.
Well, I tell you what, if you're going to fly on a Tuesday or Wednesday, you can get a really good airfare out of here. I've done some
really?
checking. If you want to fly on Tuesday or Wednesday, I guarantee you're going to get probably a better rate out of here. I know you will. You'll get a better rate flying right from here than driving the cities and flying out of the cities. In fact, I even checked because of my Aruba trip that, okay, I could non-rev to Atlanta and then pay from Atlanta to Aruba. It's still $100 more to do that than just pay for a ticket and fly from here.
Really?
Yeah, it's $531 from here. It was $632 or something to fly from Atlanta to Aruba.
I've been told, and I haven't seen the schedule yet, so I should not even make statements publicly, but that Minneapolis, Delta will have a flight from Minneapolis to Aruba direct starting in January.
Actually, last week of December.
Starting the last week of December? Okay.
But it ends,
You know better than I
it
would.
ends in March before I go in April. So.
Okay, so anybody wanting to go to Aruba, that's direct flight now, or will be.
And Sun Country's starting there too, doing the same thing.
From Five Falls?
No, from
Posniak doesn't have that much influence.
My mind was blown there for a split second. I'm like, are you kidding me?
I think for Commissioner Jackson, the frequent flyer, the business flyer, finds it inconvenient at times that they can't get back here or get out of here early enough. But for people who are just vacationing, they love the 10:55 or the afternoon flight. They have no problem at all with.
Don't have to get up early in the
And we're
morning.
seeing that, and the prices have been very good. Every airport in Minnesota has had an increase this year in the payments, and we have one of the biggest.
Good.
But if you're going to Hawaii, it ain't gonna happen in one day. It's really.
Or you could make it to
Oh yeah,
Hawaii in one day.
it's really hard. It was so convenient before for me. I just loved it because you'd get on that 6 o'clock in the morning flight, and when you're coming home, you'd get back at 10 o'clock at night. You could get it all done in one day, regardless of where you were going.
A lot of traveling, but
Yes, but now, unless you're going to someplace in the continental United States, you can still get there in one day and get back. But it's, I much prefer the old schedule, but I also much prefer the jet and not stopping at Hibbing to pick up people. So
That's a trade-off.
it's a trade-off. And the other thing is that now when there's issues, it seems like you end up having to overnight in the cities because flights have been delayed and you can't get, before you always had this fallback of hardly anything got into the cities later than the 9 o'clock when we were coming up here. And so you could always get home. Well, now that's not, I've spent 3 nights in the cities this year just because of schedule issues and things happened and you couldn't get all the way home. Yeah, and that didn't used to happen before. But.
hopefully if we get enough people that write in, that maybe they'll give us that so many days a week in the summertime anyway, or in their peak times, and give us, because they don't have to give us any more, but if they thought they could make money, I know they would.
The camps in Ontario love this 10:55 flight. The 6 o'clock in the morning flight, well, they had to get up at 2:30 in the morning to get over here to be ready for that flight. Now they can get up at 6:30 and be here and get back home.
My wife likes the 10:55 flight rather than 6 in the morning. She gets to sleep in.
We digress.
Yes, we did. Did you have anything else?
No, sir, I don't.
Anything else? We'll adjourn at 18:15.
All right.